Camera number 380, and I just want to take the opportunity first of all to thank very much the Real Camera of Liverpool, for whom it's possible to review this camera. The Zeus or Zeus 35mm camera, and we know very little about this camera, unfortunately. The internet hasn't thrown up very much. There is one advert which enables us to pinpoint the year or approximate year, sort of 1950s. It seems it could possibly be the first English or made in England by an English company. Not quite sure about that. So if anybody can correct, I'm very happy to be corrected, or in fact provide any information about the camera, because the internet is silent about this particular camera. Metal construction, has sort of a brown crinkly covering, very basic viewfinder. The lens is an alpha matte, 50mm. We have 3 shutter speeds, if you can call them shutter speeds. T for timer or bulb, 1/25th of a second and 1/75th of a second, and that's all you get. So obviously the aperture, I'm not sure, f11 potentially, according to some resource, but again I don't really know whether I can confirm that or deny that. Very interesting little design. We have our film counter here. What's interesting is that the film doesn't actually stop. There is no way. The film will continue to wind on, and so after much head scratching, I'll show how we can perhaps deduce how we can stop our film. But to open the film, or camera if you like, just pull these springs open, and then we can remove the whole of the base, and there we have its basicness. Literally just a cutout, a little mechanism here that rotates our film counter and our film spool, and that's where our 35mm canister goes in. Now obviously with the timing, it seems that modern 35mm canisters aren't quite right, and I'll show you what I mean if I go and get one. So here we have, if you like, a modern 35mm film spool, and if we line up the base here, it's not quite right. It's a little bit too high. I just put it in there and wind it on. You'll see what I mean. Can you see? Look, it's a bit too high. So to overcome that, what I had to do was cue the scissors, basically cut off the sprocket holes. By cutting the sprocket holes off, that enables me then to put the film spool in a bit lower, and then we're in business now. Can you see that? And then the little sprocket that drives the film counter is engaged, and then we just lift up the film rewind. And again, you have to be careful. There's really not very much to keep that film canister in place. Let's see if we can get that in. There we go. That's it. So it goes down. Let's rewind that back in, and then let's just put that back in its place. Seems very few of these cameras can be found around, so I feel really privileged to be able to use this camera. There we go. And then can you see that by rotating the dial, it actually rotates, and I'm thinking, well, how can you work it out? Well, what I did was actually on the film, I don't know whether we can see there, I put 2 little markers, just one just there to indicate the frame and frame 1. And so looking, there's a little marker there, and on this occasion I'm at frame 10. So by advancing it to frame 2, it's now on frame 11. So this little counter, as basic as it is, does actually work. which really surprised me because it just looks as though it shouldn't. But because everything is so manual, so that's what you just remember that whenever, if you do have an opportunity to use the camera, that we need to align it, and then when we've put the film in, just make a note of where the film counter is, and then make sure we advance it by 1, and then in theory that should advance the film, and there'll still be plenty of space in the camera, or in the frame rather, so that we get overlapped frames. Have to make sure that we put the camera on the right way, and then just close it. Now again, I wonder if the modern canisters are just slightly too big, or whether the spring here is just slightly weakened. But notice there's a bit of movement there, so I was very conscious of that when I took it out. Whether there'll be light leaks, I'm not sure. There is quite a big overlap in the metal. Whether that's sufficient, well, we'll find out when we view the images. Tripod mount. Now, I'm not sure that's a normal tripod mount, actually, I didn't check that. So there we go, that's the viewfinder, very basic, again, just point and shoot. So, and one other very important thing, of course, is the shutter it literally is a ping. I don't know whether we can hear that. I assume that there's a spring going on, spring mechanism. It's very much like it from a previous camera I did. But again, if someone can help out, please provide in the comments any additional information. So there we go, that's fundamentally it. Did I mention that to rewind the film back into the canister we have to lift up the film advance, and then that, let's just show it in all its glory. That obviously releases that mechanism, and then we can wind our film back into our canister. There we go. There we go. And then we can lift that up and take that out. Push those back down. There we go. And then put it back in place. There we go. So, really intriguing camera. Bit of a dark horse. Not quite sure where, when and who and why. But let's see if it produces any images. And we can only do that if we go to location to the darkroom.